You've just stepped into the Midlife Revolution Unleashed, your space to ignite possibility, redefine purpose, and embrace the power that comes with age and experience. Co-hosted by yours truly, Coach Wayne.
And I'm Coach Stacey M. Lewis. We are two seasoned coaches focused on the midlife community of color. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. In a world that sometimes forgets the power and the wisdom that comes with age, we are here to ignite a revolution and rewrite the narrative of this incredible journey.
So, whether you're navigating your career, growing your business, rediscovering passions, or challenging the status quo, this is your space. So, buckle up. Let's dive into the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. Hey everyone, special good afternoon, good night, and good morning for some, depending on what side of the Atlantic you are. Stacey, this is Midlife Revolution Unleashed, and we are way up there, Stacey. This is like our number 42nd episode.
45, Wayne.
Whoa.
45.
45. I'm loving it. I'm loving it, Stacey, today. And I'm Coach Wayne. I help midlife men navigate midlife so that they can avoid what's commonly called the crisis and land on their feet on the second half. I'm happy to be sharing the chair with none other than the great Stacey M. Lewis.
Ta-da! Welcome to the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. We are so excited that you are here. I'm Stacey M. Lewis. I'm a nonprofit executive, a midlife women's coach, and a lover of God and his people, even when they don't act right. But anyway, so it is such a joy to have you here. We're going to really have a great conversation about something. I don't know about you, Wayne, but I feel like there are a lot of parenting podcasts and parenting newsletters, most often talking about raising small children. But when you've been there, done that, there really is this new aspect of parenting, which is parenting those adult children. And sometimes the launch is a little slow. So I think it's beautiful that we're going to talk about this and really start to kind of destigmatize or de-isolate or something our community of midlifers.
The launch is a little bit slow. Is that your euphemistic way of saying they take a while to be kicked out of the house, Stacey?
Well, they take a while to really move in a direction. See, I'm being nice. Wayne's smiling, but they take a while to move in a direction where they fully have agency over their own life. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Stacey, I have a wonderful blended family, and I can't begin to count the numbers when you add up all the steps and the biological and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Godchildren too, I guess. But so I fathered biologically 2 boys, 2 girls. And through marriage, I'm also now fathering, as it were, 2 girls and a boy. And the youngest of that lot happens to be 23 years old.
Do you know? Okay.
I want to say, right? So we're looking at, and you corrected me the other day when I was saying my kids and their offsprings. So what happens, of course, is they grow up and grow out or not. But I have had to learn, Stacey, that the application of being a dad that I carried for a decade and a half, 2 decades prior to them getting in their 20s, it just had to shift and had to change. I had to learn new strategies, right? Dealing with not just the generational drift, but just how evolved they were. That was a challenge. How are you finding it, Stacey?
Well, what I think is interesting about that, Wayne, it's funny because I was going to say I don't have a blended family, but the reality is that while I have one biological, I have a number of bonus children, some that lived with me for a while, some that I helped raise. And what I find interesting and somewhat a little sad sometimes is that we see on the social media highlights, we see all of the successes, right? This one has their PhD, and this one is, gone on to become a mega millionaire, and all of this. And yet we have not given normalcy to the reality that everyone launches at their own pace, and some slower than others. And I found that you're absolutely right. We have to really shift the way we think about parenting, and I'm sure for most people that makes sense, but we have to put that shift into practice. And so that's what we're going to talk to today. You are not alone. Many of us have different experiences as it relates to parenting our adult children. So let's jump into it. And
Yeah,
good evening, Curtis. It is always a pleasure to see you.
brother Curtis, welcome, brother. So, listen, Stacy, one of the biggest ones for most adults and midlifers as you start dealing with your kids growing up and out is dealing with the finances, right? Show me the money, ain't nothing but the rent going on, right? Right? Hey, if you're living in my house, should you be paying rent?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The finances is one, right? That the financial dependence or independence. And, so are they depending upon you as their parent, even though they are an adult? Or are they uh kind of walking out their approach to financial independence? And I think it's important for us to just call a thing a thing. Sometime our adult children, I want to call them kids, but they're not goats. Sometime our adult offspring are, asking for $5. Sometimes they're asking for $5,000. So there's such a range in there when we talk about financial dependence or independence, that we want to make sure that we normalize that just a little bit.
Yeah, Stace, I learned a lesson a long time ago. You want to share the responsibility. So in my situation, when they come and ask for 5,000, I say, ask your mother. That's my
Yeah.
goal.
But Wayne, that is not necessarily helpful, right? Are you guiding them to independence, or are you guiding them to a different source for their dependence? But we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Sir Curtis poses an interesting question, which I will definitely touch on tonight, and that is, could we be coddling them and taking away their autonomy? So trust, we're definitely going to get there, Sir Curtis. Definitely going to get
Yeah. And so we talk about financial independence and financial dependence. Part of the conversation that ought to be happening, and that should be earlier, but it's never too late, is financial literacy, right? Helping to, something that doesn't even happen today in most schools is helping people to balance a checkbook. It's like a lot of young folks don't even know that you pay through checks if you can, right? It's all about the credit, the plastic. So us as parents, we have some responsibilities, and one is to help our kids shape their balance sheet and understand what it is to go out there if they can. And if they can't, we want to give them a leg up so that there is that lack of codependency.
Yeah. Which, ideally we started when they were young, right? The whole give, save, spend. We started when they were young. That's the ideal. But, again, we're talking about the fact that everyone doesn't necessarily embrace all of the lessons at the same time. One of the things I've also been seeing in not just my young adults, but also many others, is just this interesting blend. Um, of emotional and mental health struggles, where they are dealing with levels of anxiety or depression, the lack of motivation that we just, weren't necessarily seeing as much in our generation. And thinking about, too, a lot of young adults were impacted by COVID, and just that experience on the mental health and, kind of how they tackle different challenges is interesting.
Yeah, young people are facing a whole, every generation says, my generation was better. And
Mm.
the truth of the matter is, young people today, or our younger people, are dealing with a whole new host of triggers that deals with mental health. One is the world and its rules are changing almost daily.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
seeing we're seeing advancement in technology like never before. And
Mhm.
so the minute you get situated and think that you got it covered, you're deal with a whole nother level of stressors to reposition yourself, repurpose yourself. And young people are dealing with that every day. And so I think the idea of can we cope? Are we good enough? Is a question that a lot of our young people face. And we have to help them to navigate that in terms of just mental wellness.
Absolutely. Where we are really making it clear that while we may be um, pushing and coaching in different ways, we're not giving up on them, right? We really are um, ultimately desiring to see their best selves and all that they're here to offer the world. We're really looking to see that come to fruition, and not see that kind of hang out in the failure or slow to launch space. So I think it really is important to at least acknowledge some of these common challenges. And to Curtis's point, another one is that parenting versus enabling, right? How often are we understanding that fine line between supporting? I think Curtis called it coddling, but that fine line between supporting and overdoing for them. And thinking of overdo, every time I say overdo, I hear my mother say, you either overdo, you underdo, or you don't do. And then I see that Sister Delane is joining us from hot Jamaica. So welcome, Delane. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, and my sister went to visit my other sister today. So she's landed in beautiful sunny Jamaica.
Ah,
Anyway, welcome, Delane. And
nobody took me.
so, Stacy, coddling, some people call it helicopter parenting, right? Where you're
Mm-hmm,
hovering around and above your
mm-hmm.
kids. And it's a thin line because parents are sometimes thinking that if they're not there for the child, then it shows a lack of empathy and actually apathy. If your
Mm.
child is an adult, a lot of parents figure we raised you, you got to figure it out on your own. Some parents extend that to even grandkids. They're like, we raised our own kids. We're not being grandkids to them. Don't drop them off, right? so so how do you draw the line? Well, one of the things, and I think to Curtis's point about coddling, we have to be mindful that we're not enabling them in a way that makes them uh, learned helpless. So
Yeah, yeah,
empower
yeah.
them.
Absolutely. I do believe that it does take a little bit of self-reflection, right? Or introspection, where you are really looking at yourself and your actions, your behaviors as the parent, and really questioning yourself about, okay, am I doing too much? Am I really trying to drive this other human being? That is what they are human beings, this other human being, in a way that is really about what I want and less about what they want. And are there actions that I'm doing that might be handicapping my adult children? And, one example for that is I remember having to go back home after I had my son, and my father was he was not playing the handicap game. He was like, okay, you're going to pay rent and, do this and do that, right? And make sure you have childcare, right? So it definitely wasn't that, it wasn't that holding so much or carrying so much of my weight that it allowed me to kind of like lay back and say like, oh, okay, this is comfortable. So are we making it too comfortable
Yeah.
sometimes?
Yeah.
And we really have to ask ourselves our question, not about what they're doing, but about what we're doing.
Yeah. I remember with my dad, if I went out clubbing and came in the wee hours of the morning, snuck upstairs, took my shoes off, snuck upstairs, and he always knew I was coming in late, no matter what. My mom too,
Mhm.
they would be up till I got
That's
in.
right. Always knew. Always knew.
And they would get up like 5:36 in the morning to just get their day started. My dad would make sure that I got out of bed. He would say, "You can go back to sleep later on, but if I'm in here, the breadwinner, and I'm getting up at 6, you're going to get up as well." So I would get up and start the chores, whatever that was. And so you had the notion that there was no lacking, lazing around,
Right.
not owning your piece of the pie when it comes to chores and
Mhm.
responsibilities because you chose to come home late. Life went on and there was no excuse. That was a discipline that helped me moving forward too. I kind of
Mm.
started raising my kids based on those set values. And I think, Stacy, we talk about empowering our kids. Sometimes I think if you don't give kids the base level, you don't preach to them or come at them with the values,
Mhm.
as corny as it may seem, when they're out there on their own, they don't have anything to stand on.
Correct. Well, certainly if if you didn't put in some of that parenting work in the earlier years, we certainly can't expect to reap the benefits of that work we didn't put in. But I do think that there are opportunities that we have to, to coach ourselves in ways that not only um, that not only help us move forward, but that help our adult children know that we are supporting them, cheering for them, and encouraging them forward. And for me, Wayne, I don't know about you, but the first self-coaching strategy that I have for parents is to pray. Pray, 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 and pray some more. Pray. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a way, I'm in agreement with that, Stace. And there is a way that we can love our children, as it were, from afar. That is to
Mm-hmm.
say, not to smother them. And you can spoil grown children too, grown, adult children, as you
That's
could
true.
smother a kid. And it's
That's
important that you recognize that it's not necessarily tough love, but there are times when you have to detach and not let the love blind you into doing and holding them up,
mm-hmm.
just so that they can go out there and understand that the real world is the real world and it doesn't have guardrails.
Right. Right. And like you're saying, letting them know, like, no, this is the real world, right? That I'm still cheering you on. And at the same time, this is the world we have to learn, you have to learn to navigate. And while we want to say that, all of the world is for you, the reality is that it's not. There are some in this world that are not for our adult children. And so we really need to make sure that we're encouraging them, like you're saying, that we're distancing ourselves with love in a way that offers support without, being in control.
Yeah. The other thing is, Stacy, releasing yourself from blame, giving yourself permission to give yourself grace Now, you can take a horse to water, can't let him drink it, is the old adage. And so let us say that you've raised your child in, the ways of God, if that's your philosophy and thinking and belief
Mm-hmm.
and principles, or not, however you raise your child. And then the child becomes an adult and makes their own decision and falters or falls. You want to be there, of course, but you have to release yourself from guilt because they
Yes.
are blazing their own path. And so release yourself from guilt is one of the other things I would say.
Mm-hmm. I would totally agree with that because the guilt is not serving you, nor is it serving the relationship that you have with your adult children. So bless and release. We're all doing the best we can. Show yourself some grace and let it go.
One of my three kids, the second to youngest boy, he went to college for one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then he chose not to go back. He had one day, he went in the turnstile, came back out, right?
Just
Said, "This is
just
not for me."
one day.
One day he got admitted to college, and he went one day, and literally, I kid you not, said it wasn't for him. And so it was hard for me and his mom to swallow, right? But one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that you have to recognize that everybody blazes their own path, and you
Yeah.
can't compare kids, and you can't compare yourself with them either. They
Mm-hmm.
know who they are, and if they're being called to purpose, sometimes they don't recognize that. We don't recognize that
Right.
oftentimes they're grown
Right.
and fast. But we have to realize that, give them a chance to define their own path and their own successes. It's not for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and that their path is not going to be does not have to look anything like our path. I
Yeah.
I think that for me was a difficult hurdle, right? To watch his path evolve and to at some point like and other times just like, okay, no, if you go this way, I'm telling you, bro, if you go this way, it will be so much easier. And you're absolutely right. Their success path doesn't have to look anything like our success path. And we also have to, because we pray, we have to believe that they're going to be all right.
Yeah.
God loves them too.
Yeah. And it's important to always get back to base, which is self-care. Everybody who has
Mm-hmm.
ever flown in an aircraft knows the routine. If the pressure in the cabin goes down, you firstly put the oxygen mask on who? On yourself before you tend to the people that are with you, including children. Why? If you can't
Mm-hmm.
resuscitate yourself, you're no good to the people around you. So the same is true when, as midlifers, we're raising adult kids or offsprings. You got to keep the oxygen tank on yourself.
Yeah.
Self-care
Yeah.
is important so that you
Mm-hmm.
can show up bigger and better for them.
Yeah. Don't, we have to really be mindful of how much we're pouring out, just like in every other relationship, right? Ensuring that we are really setting those boundaries in ways that are um ensuring that we have that safe space, that self-care space that says, if I'm no good to me, I'm certainly no good to you. So really just making sure that we have that space. And I think kind of coupled with that is that protection of our own peace.
And Stacy, in coaching, I do this with my clients, and I would recommend that we do this with our adult children as well. And that is celebrate wins, even small wins, right? Someone is smoking cigarettes and you don't
Yeah.
like it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they quit cigarettes, and being a parent, you're like, well, darn it, it's about time you should have done that. That's not the way. It's a small win, and you should celebrate it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Encouraging the small wins is definitely one of those practical tips. It's something that we can all do easily. It doesn't cost you nothing, right? It really doesn't. To cheer one on. And sometime, I don't know about you, Wayne, but I can certainly reflect on a couple of times where I've positioned myself as a partner to my adult son, right? To say like, okay, how can I bring the skills that I have, the knowledge that I have, to partner with you to help you create kind of or navigate this area of your own life's roadmap.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm not driving.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you how to do it, but I'm just saying like I'm by your side. I'm
Yeah.
partnering with you to say, you know, how can I help you navigate this season, this year, this, you know, this new job, this point in your life?
Stacey, you know, I thought long and hard. One of my sons, the youngest, the second to the youngest one, same one that went in and out of the turnstile at college. One day we were hanging out and he says, Dad, finally, can't wait to buy you a drink. Have a drink with you. And I thought long and hard about it. I'm like, I ain't drinking with you. First of all, I'm not a drinker, but it meant something for him as an adult to say, hey, P, you know, I bought my dad a drink. And so I had to kind of, you know, I may have had a glass of wine with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of made sure that the message was, this is not, we're not drinking buddies, right? So there's a thing that we have to do also, and that is separate being friendly from being friends, even when they get older. It's a different, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're still the parents, and there's still a role that of demarcation between their friends and you, the parents, no matter how cool it gets.
Right, right. Well, you know, and everyone's parenting style is different. You know, I've been in at places, we'll say, you know, where dad and daughter were, you know, puffing on the same joint. Not my
Yeah.
jam, but you know, if that's how you roll,
Yeah.
you do realize that there are sadly some consequences there too. But you know, we have to introduce those to both the adult and the young adult. Some of those consequences. You know, one of the things we also get to do is help them find their way. You know, there's some points in life, you know, it's just rough.
Yeah.
And it's acknowledging that, you know, that this is rough, not judging it, or not even not saying that they shouldn't feel the way they feel, right?
Yeah.
But to really just help them along the path find their way, identifying, you know, as parents, we're good at identifying some of the things that drive our offspring. And so now we can really look at those drivers and look at them as adults and see what we can impart that will help them move forward.
And Stacey, as we come around the bend, right,
Mm-hmm.
to close to closing, we talk about giving ourselves grace, recognizing that, you know, there'll be pitfalls and we're not perfect. But we also must remember that this is also a phase of growth and development, a stage.
Yes.
They're not going to be
Yes.
stuck in that stage
Mm-hmm.
permanently. So recognizing that they're going through their thing as they start adulting as well is important
Mm-hmm.
for us to recognize and not be so harsh and judgmental.
I could not agree with you more. You know, our goal in this episode was really just to make sure that our midlife community, those of you in particular that are parenting adult children, know that you are not alone. It's not always easy, and the parenting journey does not end when they are 18. I don't know about you all, but you know, I remember being young and saying, I can't wait till I'm 18 to get out of here, right? But the reality is, you know, when I was 40 and moving into a new home, you know, kind of who was first to walk through the door, right?
Yeah.
My parents, right? Because they were proud and they were still my parents, and it didn't matter that I was 40 years old. And so I say that to say and to remind our community that, you know, you're not alone, that it's not always easy. We see all the glamour on social media, yet, you know, Wayne and I are very real people living this real life, having a real talk conversation about and to our midlife community. And so our hope is that anything that we've shared really encouraged you to know that you're not alone.
Yeah, yeah. And you can, as a parent, and you both growing up, you can learn to let loose, just chill, take a chill pill, as they
Mm-hmm.
used to say, relax without letting go. You
Right,
can still be involved without feeling you got to take over and run their lives.
right. And see what you can learn about yourself,
Yeah.
right? Who are you now as this parent of adults? What do you know now about yourself that you didn't know, when they were little and grabbing at your ankles? Certainly this is an opportunity for you to enjoy this season of life while you navigate this season of life with your adult children that may be a little slower to launch.
And Stace, most folks that are, I guess, joining us,
Mm-hmm.
ranging from age 40 to in their 60s or even above,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that we live on today because of advancements in science and medicine to 80 and even beyond. So you're
Mm-hmm.
still in midlife. And
Yeah.
so the idea that you are so firm in your ways that you say, oh, but this is how I am, it's the kind of language for people who are declared dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to, once you have life, you got to be willing to change and
Yes.
adjust, be
Yes.
flexible, be agile. So you're not one thing because you're dynamic as a human being, and you ought to change and learn and grow along with your adult children.
Yeah, I think it's important to share that, if you're looking for support or to have more of these conversations and just kind of walk through your own journey. Wayne is here for the brothers. I'm certainly here for the sisters. Our goal is really to support you in ways that help you move forward in this beautiful, rich season of life called the midlife journey.
My good brother Roland, greetings, and so happy to have you on board. We're getting out of here, but we do it every Tuesday, same time
Mm-hmm.
and same place. Stacy, let folks know where else they can find us.
Oh, you know where you can find us. There's all of the social channels. You know to connect with Sir Wayne, the VIP coach. And certainly I am here to serve as a vehicle and a vessel to do whatever God tells me to do. So if there are ways that I can cheer you on, midlife woman, please don't hesitate to reach out. Wayne, it is always a joy and a pleasure to co-host the Midlife Revolution Unleashed with you.
Thanks, Stace. Stace, we out. We got to get out of here. So, folks, have a wonderful one. Bye-bye. And there you have it, folks. This week's episode of the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. Hey, we truly appreciate your spending this time in this space with us. Join us next week at the same time as we dive into relevant topics and present solutions to spark new thinking and empower your midlife journey.
And don't forget, if you enjoyed today's episode, let us know in the comments and share it with others. And of course, remember to subscribe, share, like, hit that notification bell. You are the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I'm Coach Stacy, and I'm cheering you on.
And I'm Coach Wayne, and I'll see you at the top.